Welcome back to the Mia Pompey podcast. I'm Mia Pompey, and today I have a question for you. Have you ever known something before you were able to admit that you knew it? Here's some examples, and maybe they have happened to you. You knew a friendship had changed. You knew a relationship wasn't what it used to be. You had a feeling that someone wasn't being completely honest with you. You knew that business arrangement just didn't feel right. You knew you were giving more than you were getting. You just knew. And instead of trusting what you were feeling or trusting what you were seeing, you were just explaining it away. And now you're coming up with excuses. Maybe they're just busy. Maybe I misunderstood. Maybe I'm expecting too much. Maybe I should give it more time. Maybe things will change. And before you know it, you're not responding to what is actually happening. You're responding to what you hope will happen. Today, I want to talk about that because I'll tell you, there's a difference between being hopeful and refusing to see what's right in front of you. And sometimes one of the greatest forms of self-respect is saying to yourself, I see it now. I really think most of us have experienced that feeling where we say to ourselves, something isn't right here. And I am not talking about being suspicious of everyone. I'm not talking about assuming the worst. And I am definitely not suggesting that every uncomfortable feeling is some magical message from the universe. There's actually psychology behind intuition. Researchers describe intuition as our ability to use information we're processing outside of our conscious awareness to help make decisions. Experience and pattern recognition can help play an important role. So sometimes your brain can recognize patterns before you consciously put all the pieces together. But here's where it gets complicated. Sometimes we do recognize the pattern, but we talk ourselves out of it. And why do we do that? Because the truth isn't always the answer we wanted. Human beings do not like unanswered questions. So when somebody's actions and words don't match, we tend to fill in the missing pieces ourselves. We can tell ourselves they didn't call because they were busy. They didn't follow through because they were overwhelmed. They keep disappointing me because, well, they're going through something. And listen, sometimes these explanations are absolutely true. People have bad days. People make mistakes. People deserve grace. But there's a difference giving someone grace for an occasional mistake and spending 6 months constructing explanations for a pattern. Now, that's where discernment comes in. Discernment isn't about condemning someone. It's being willing to look at something that's actually happening, not what we wish were happening. It's not what someone promised would happen. It's what is actually happening. There's something that I've learned. Stop listening to what people tell you and watch what people consistently do. I mean, words matter, but honestly, behavior gives you information. Someone can tell you they support you, but do their actions support you? Someone can tell you you're important to them, but do their actions make you feel important? Someone can promise they're going to change, but are they actually changing? Someone can say they want to build something with you, but are they actually building? Because eventually you have to stop evaluating someone on their potential and start dealing with their pattern. And that's difficult when you care about someone. You know, hope is powerful. But here's something I want you to remember. Hope is beautiful, but hope shouldn't require you to ignore evidence. Now, let's talk about the other side of this, because every feeling isn't intuition. Sometimes we're afraid. Sometimes we're insecure. Sometimes something happening today reminds us of something that happened years ago that was painful. And suddenly we're responding to the past instead of the present. That's why I don't believe the answer is simply trust every gut feeling. The better question to ask yourself, what is this feeling based on? Is there a pattern? Is there evidence? Has this happened repeatedly? Am I noticing someone's behavior, or am I noticing something that hasn't happened? Intuition can involve rapid, unconscious pattern recognition. But good judgment still benefits from reflection and evidence. Okay, so maybe the healthiest approach is it intuition or is it logic? Maybe it's intuition and logic. My intuition gets my attention, and then I look at the facts. Sometimes we know, and we negotiate, well, maybe I'll just give them one more chance. And there's nothing wrong with giving someone another chance when you genuinely want to. But eventually, another chance becomes another excuse. And another excuse becomes a pattern of abandoning your own judgment. And that's the part I want us to think about. Because discernment isn't only about recognizing other people's behavior. It's about recognizing our own behavior. Asking yourself, why am I accepting this? Or why am I explaining this? Why am I working this hard to make something fit? What am I afraid will happen if I finally acknowledge what I already know? Now, I know those are uncomfortable questions, but sometimes uncomfortable questions lead us to unbelievably peaceful answers. And here's something else. Recognizing something doesn't mean you have to blow everything up. You don't always need the confrontation. You don't always need the dramatic goodbye. You don't always need someone else to admit what they've done. Sometimes discernment simply changes your next move. You stop chasing. You stop over-explaining. You stop doing all the work. You stop forcing the friendship. You stop trying to convince someone of your value. You stop waiting for someone else to become the better person that you hoped they'd become. And then you quietly make your next decision based on reality. Now, that's powerful. We put enormous pressure on ourselves to figure out the whole next chapter. What's my next career? What's my next business move? What's my next relationship? What's my 5-year plan? Sometimes you don't need to know. You just need to know what's the next right step. Maybe it's saying no. Maybe it's saying yes. Maybe it's setting a boundary. Maybe it's finally ending something. Or maybe it's finally beginning something. Or maybe it's just having a little quiet time with yourself. Quiet enough to hear what you've been drowning out. And listen, you don't have to force your entire future into existence today. Just start figuring out what you already know. So I'm going to leave you with a question, and I want you to really think about this one. Where in your life are you filling in the gaps with hope instead of looking at the actions that are right in front of you? Maybe you're not looking anywhere, but maybe something immediately came to mind. Maybe you thought about a person, a job, a relationship, a friendship, or maybe a business relationship. Maybe you have been waiting for something to change, but maybe today isn't the day you make some gigantic decision. And that's okay, because maybe today is the day that you stop pretending you don't see it. Because sometimes clarity doesn't arrive with fireworks. Sometimes clarity arrives quietly. And as it arrives, it says, you already know. And once you know, you get to decide what you're going to do with it. As always, I thank you for spending your time with me. And remember, life is not a dress rehearsal. What are you waiting for?